美国时事通，我是罗文。
By the way, I'm afraid. You know, I've been one of the most outspoken guys. You know, it's interesting. Somebody said to me, "Are you afraid if he gets reelected?" And I hadn't thought about it. And like, he's going to come after Joe. He's going to come after me. He might come after you. I mean, this is what people are not comprehending. And here's the campaign the Democrats need to run. And I've been thinking about this a lot. There are 4 people that need to step forward: Kelly, Mattis, McMaster, and Milley. And there needs to be a general campaign where these generals who have worked with him need to turn to the American public and turn to camera and say, you don't understand how scary this can be. We really can go over a cliff here. These people, patriots, need to start to stand up because that's what America listens to. I think if you do the right campaign with those 4 guys and you continue to put the message out, you're going to lose control of your bodies. Women, immigration, it will even get worse as it did the first time with Donald Trump. Our democracy is really, really, really online here, and our way of life will change. Get people scared out of people.
The Fox News decision desk can now officially project that Donald Trump will become the 47th president of the United States.
The former president's comeback will be complete with a win in Wisconsin, a state that he narrowly lost 4 years ago. He is now the 2nd president in U.S. history to win non-consecutive terms. The first was Grover Cleveland in the late 1800s. Senator J.D. Vance will become the 50th vice president of the United States.
Donald Trump will become the 47th president of the United States.
You know, there's so much schadenfreude out there. The headlines every morning you wake up and you read about people panicked, suffering, crying, in shock at DOJ, and I just can't avoid those headlines. That it's exciting. It's finally exciting after 4 years to be able to read headlines where they finally are considering, you know, the consequences of their actions, their persecution and prosecution of not only President Trump, but many members of sort of the America First orbit, including the great Stephen K. Bannon. So I shouldn't be so juvenile, Natalie. I shouldn't get so excited by headlines like that. But when I hear about it, and coming from left media, coming from NBC News, and Politico also had stuff this weekend, when you see headlines, when they're actually admitting that they're scared, that they're panicked, that they're hiring defense lawyers, that they're preparing for extended litigation, if not criminal charges, it feels good. I can't help but be excited by it. So it gets triple red headlines, and everyone in the stack sees it. Can you? Yeah. So one of the other good, if you're still with me, Natalie, one of the other big things that's happened in the last 24 hours is Brendan Carr at the FCC. People who follow the Trump orbit know that Carr was first appointed to the FCC back in, I believe, 2012. He's been a lawyer. That was his original appointment as general counsel for the FCC. But Trump appointed him in 2017 as a special assistant to Ajit Pai, who was running the FCC under Trump. And we got word in the last 24 hours that he will now take over duties at the FCC. And that's big news because, you know, Brendan Carr's pretty active on Twitter, and readers may also remember, or not, they'll be used to seeing him on Laura Ingram's show. He appears there quite often. And he's made statements just in the past 12 hours. One, that DEI is now dead at the FCC. That used to be, he posted a screenshot showing how that was the #2 goal of the Biden administration FCC, was to sort of spread DEI throughout the airwaves. So that is now dead. And a more recent tweet, which is kind of ominous, which I have at the top of the stack, talks about how all broadcast networks, all public networks, enjoy a privilege in receiving those broadcast rights. And I'll quote him. He says exactly, broadcast media have the privilege of using a scarce and valuable public resource, our airwaves. In turn, they are required by law to operate in the public interest. When the transition to Trump is complete, the FCC will begin enforcing this public interest obligation. So right there, that's a shot over the bow of NBC, CBS, ABC, MSNBC, and CNN, and many other outlets, that lies and slander of the president and this administration will no longer be tolerated. So I think that's a very positive move.
NBC News reports this morning that Merrick Garland was stunned on election night and that senior Justice Department officials were weeping. That's up on the stack if you go to Citizens Free Press right now in Kane. What does that tell you, Davis? That and they're all worried about going bankrupt, lawyering up. You know, like none of us had to pay millions of dollars of legal fees, or some people like Rudy are actually going into bankruptcy because of it. What does it tell you when NBC News reports a well-reported, deeply sourced story that they're panicked over at Main Justice Sir?
They should be panicked. They should be fearful. They should be crying because they have politicized and weaponized our justice systems at every level. They did this with the intel agencies with Crossfire Hurricane, and these people who participated in this unprecedented Republican-ending lawfare and election interference against President Trump, his top aides like you, Steve Bannon, and Peter Navarro, who went to prison, his supporters on January 6th, who were politically persecuted under the Supreme Court's Fisher decision, parents getting targeted by the Biden FBI for raising hell about gender chaos in schools and the resulting rapes in high school bathrooms. They sent pro-life Christians, including a 75-year-old Christian to prison under the FACE Act because of this corrupt civil rights division by the Biden-Harris Justice Department. Kristen Clark, who's corrupt, who perjured herself to get the job, right? There has to be accountability for what happened. So I'm glad that they're fearful. I'm glad that they're crying. They should lawyer up because nobody is above the law, as they always told us. And if they didn't commit a crime, they have no reason to be fearful. They have no reason to be crying, right? Because, of course, you don't prosecute for non-crimes, do you?
Yes, I think it's legitimate. I've talked to people who are closer to DOJ than I am who say that the fear and terror is real, not just among top DOJ officials, including Special Counsel Jack Smith and his team. We could talk about his being a flight risk and leaving, as Mark Zayed is recommending top targets to flee the country around Inauguration Day. Just crazy talk. But that even lying prosecutors are terrified that they are going to be investigated, which they should, for violating the 1A, 4A, 5A, 6A, 8A constitutional rights of January 6th defendants conspiring with the FBI and federal judges to deny due process to Americans, the overwhelming majority of whom had no criminal record, committed no crime, but nonetheless had their lives destroyed at the hands of this bloodthirsty DOJ led by Merrick Garland, Lisa Monaco, and of course the DC U.S. Attorney Matthew Graves. So the fear is real. It is gratifying to see the tables turn on this vengeful DOJ who has destroyed so many lives over the past 4 years. And I'm sure that they're shocked, Steve, because I was in courtrooms leading up to Election Day, seeing how they're treating J6ers. There was no indication that they thought for a minute Donald Trump would win, that the January 6th, what they call the Capitol siege investigation, would end, that pardons would take place, and furthermore, the tables turned, as you said, the hunted becoming the hunters, which is precisely what's happening.
Look, Steve, I spent a total of 6.5+ years at the Justice Department in 2 different presidential administrations. I can tell you and the audience with great assurance that at no point did I ever break down weeping about any election results or even any case results. We're supposed to be adults at this point, right? I was about to say men. I recognize that maybe that's a little bit, too male-centric, but still, look, I think these reports are amazing in that they show the nature of the people who've come in under the Democrat umbrella. And, I don't have a lot of sympathy for them. I hear that they're making arguments of, well, we're going to have to be bedeviled by lawsuits and lawfare, et cetera. Well, welcome to the club. I've spent the last 4 years being bedeviled by those things just for doing my job at the Justice Department. And, if there is some turnabout on that from the new Congress and from any investigations that might take place, that's what they signed up for when they started weaponizing the Justice Department against their political opponents, Steve.
We're going to come after the people in the media who lied about American citizens, who helped Joe Biden rig presidential elections. We're going to come after you. Whether it's criminally or civilly, we'll figure that out. But yeah, we're putting you all on notice. And Steve, this is why they hate us. This is why we're tyrannical. This is why we're dictators, because we're actually going to use the Constitution to prosecute them for crimes they said we have always been guilty of, but never have.